I'm David Packer. I'm a warder here at Hampton Court Palace, and I'm going to take you to some of the places where these darker stories are played out.
This security footage comes from one of the most guarded historical sites in England. At the time it was recorded, the doors were locked. The corridor was empty, and the alarm system showed no malfunction of any kind. No maintenance alerts, no system errors, nothing that would normally explain unexpected movement inside a secured area. But just after 1 a.m, motion sensors triggered inside the building. Not near an entrance, not along the outside perimeter, inside a secured hallway that should have been completely still. When security personnel reviewed the internal camera feed, they saw something that immediately raised questions, something that didn't fit any known explanation. Not because it looked dramatic, but because it looked deliberate. This is the Lost Tapes 404, a series documenting real cases where official records exist, but explanations don't. Tonight's case takes place inside Hampton Court Palace. Hampton Court Palace is not just a historic landmark. It's an active, government-managed property. Large sections of the building are restricted, monitored, and always protected. Even when the palace is closed to the public, its internal systems remain fully operational. Motion sensors remain active. Cameras continue recording. Access points are logged automatically. This palace does not sleep. Every unexpected movement is recorded. Every alert is reviewed, and every anomaly is documented and assessed. That's why the incident that occurred in October of 2003 didn't slip through the cracks. Just after 1 a.m., motion sensors activated inside a section of the palace known as the Haunted Gallery. The alert did not indicate a breach from the outside. No doors or windows had been opened. No alarms were triggered elsewhere in the building. The system simply detected movement where there should have been none. Security staff immediately pulled up the internal camera feed covering that corridor. At first, nothing appeared out of place. The hallway was long and narrow, lined with portraits and lit only by low ambient lighting designed to preserve artwork overnight. The floor was clear. The space was empty. For several seconds, the feed showed nothing but stillness. Then, without warning, one of the heavy fire doors at the far end of the corridor began to move. Not suddenly, not violently, slowly. The door opened inward, as if pushed from the other side. There was no visible figure, no arm reaching into frame, no shadow crossing the wall. Just the door, opening on its own. Several seconds passed. Then a second door, farther down the corridor, opened. Then a third. Each door opened in sequence, one after another, creating the unmistakable impression of something progressing through the hallway. Whatever triggered the sensors appeared to be moving forward, step by step, following the same path a person would take. What unsettled security wasn't just that the doors moved. It was the timing between them. There was a brief pause after each door opened, long enough to suggest something passing through the space gradually, not all at once. The system did not register a sudden surge or continuous signal. It logged movement, then silence, then movement again. That pattern mattered. Mechanical failures tend to behave erratically. Pressure changes cause abrupt reactions, but this sequence appeared measured, almost paced. The sensors were responding to something that behaved like a presence moving down the corridor, triggering each door only when it reached it. But the camera never captured a person. There were no footsteps visible. No reflections in the glass, no disturbance in the air, nothing that suggested a mechanical chain reaction or a sudden pressure shift. Security initially assumed a mechanical fault. Fire doors are heavy, but they're designed to close automatically, and mechanical failures are the most reasonable explanation in situations like this. That assumption lasted only minutes. When technicians reviewed the system logs, no errors were found. The hydraulic mechanisms were functioning normally. The door closers showed no signs of failure. There were no fault codes, no pressure imbalances, and no evidence of forced movement. The sensors themselves had triggered exactly as designed, responding to motion the system interpreted as real. More importantly, there was no access record for anyone entering that corridor. No guards were assigned to that section at that time. No maintenance staff were scheduled to work there. No cleaners were present. No keyboards had been used. No security checkpoints had been passed. According to every system in place, the corridor had been empty. Security personnel replayed the footage multiple times, frame by frame. They slowed it down. They checked reflections in the glass panels, shadows along the floor, even subtle lighting changes that might suggest a passing object just outside the camera's range. And that's when something else was noticed. Briefly, near the doorway, a shape appeared in the frame. Tall, robed, skeletal in outline. It did not move quickly or cross the hallway like a person would. It appeared only after the doors had opened, as if responding to whatever had triggered them. There was no corresponding sensor alert logged for its presence, no recorded entry, no system acknowledgement that anything had changed. Yet, the figure was visible, standing where the corridor should have been empty, before the doors slowly closed again. The footage did not show the figure approach. It did not show it leave. It simply appeared, then vanished from view. The anomaly couldn't be dismissed as a malfunction, but it also couldn't be explained as an intrusion. And instead of quietly shelving the footage, something unusual happened. The palace acknowledged it. Hampton Court Palace publicly confirmed that the CCTV footage was authentic and unaltered. They confirmed that the alarm system had triggered correctly, and they confirmed that no definitive explanation could be provided for what the cameras recorded. The footage was briefly released to the public, not as proof of a haunting, not as a sensational event, but as an unexplained security incident. That framing mattered. The palace never claimed the event was supernatural, but they also never claimed it was mechanical. The official position was simply that the system recorded activity it could not identify. What followed was a period of silence. Days passed without comment. Internally, the incident was logged and reviewed, then quietly set aside. No additional sensors were installed. No public-facing explanation was issued. The palace did not attempt to recreate the event or simulate a failure. In cases like this, the absence of follow-up often says more than the official denial. No formal investigation report was published. No additional footage was released. No revised explanation appeared weeks or months later. The incident was acknowledged, documented, and archived. This is where history begins to cast a longer shadow. Hampton Court Palace has centuries of recorded events tied to its walls, and among those records is one of England's most enduring ghost legends. Catherine Howard, the fifth wife of King Henry VIII, lived at Hampton Court before being accused of adultery. Historical accounts describe her learning of her arrest and running through the palace corridors, screaming for mercy, before being captured and later executed. The corridor, known as the Haunted Gallery, is the route she's said to have taken during that desperate flight. It is the same corridor where the doors opened, but palace officials never referenced Catherine Howard in their statements. They never mentioned ghosts. They never connected the footage to any legend or historical account. They didn't need to, because legends don't trigger motion sensors. Security systems do. Following the incident, guests staying in accommodations near that section of the palace were quietly refunded. No evacuation was ordered. No warnings were issued. The palace continued operating as normal. No further incidents were officially logged. The footage remains one of the rare cases where a government-managed security system documented unexplained activity, acknowledged it publicly, and then moved on without resolution. There was no conclusion added later, no technical explanation retroactively applied, no classification issued, just a record that exists on its own. What makes this case unsettling isn't the idea of a ghost. It's the idea that a system designed to detect intrusions worked exactly as intended, but detected something it couldn't classify. The doors didn't malfunction. The alarms didn't fail. The cameras didn't glitch. Everything functioned correctly except the explanation. When that happens, the incident doesn't disappear. It doesn't get debunked or resolved. It gets archived. Thank you for watching the Lost Tapes 404. Remember, some files were never meant to be found. Stay curious. Stay cautious. Good night.